I'm Coop. This is my video review of the Nerf Vortex Pyragon. I know this is not new or anything, but I still want to make a review. So I'm going to go over the cosmetics and externals along with the features and then show you it firing and give you my personal opinion. Starting with the colors, white, gray, orange, and darker gray. I really like these colors. I really like the use of light quite a lot. But if you don't like white or you're trying to get your blasters to look realistic and dark and stuff, probably not going to be your favorite. However, I think the colors work together very well. They have the Vortex pattern printed on some of the plastics, such as the digital camo on the Nerf Elite guns and the In-Strike guns as well, sorry. That breaks up large amounts of color, and I think it looks very nice. Going over external features, starting with this massive rail. This is an In-Strike compatible rail for any scopes and stuff. However, they only have one attachment tooth, which means only one attachment will lock firmly into place. However, if you have any clip-on ones like the Stampede Shield, that kind of clamps onto the rail rather than slides on. There's plenty of space to add a bunch of crap if that's your style. Also, the priming handle, which is this big piece up here, I like it quite a lot. The ergonomics are incredibly comfortable, and the thumb hole gives you a nice assurance that you're not going to ram your thumb into the blaster. Moving back, this little thing back here is actually an unjamming button. Instead of having an access door like with a lot of their dart guns to get your finger in there and unjam, this is actually a mechanized unjamming button, which will allow you to eject out a disc. I have not had any jams with this blaster, and I've fired at incredibly high rates of fire. However, after your discs get a little worn, that's when you might get a jam if you're using damaged or wet discs or very dirty or just worn out and soft. Moving back, the magazine release is right here. It is ambidextrous, meaning you're right or left-handed and you can still use it with your thumb very fast. The magazine release is nice because the magazine actually has a spring internally, so it actually ejects out of the blaster. So if the blaster is pretty much parallel to the ground on this plane, if you press the button, it does move out, which is great because it doesn't jam into the magazine well and it falls out very easily. The trigger is very soft, no complaints about the trigger because it's just a spring gun. It's very smooth, but it has a very nice round fillet on it, which makes it very comfortable to pull. The grip itself is quite large. It's very basic. It doesn't have any offensive material or protruding items that can catch your hand and make it uncomfortable for long periods of time. It's quite large. I have complained about some of the new Elite guns being a little uncomfortable for larger people. I'm almost 6'4", so I have very large hands. And some blasters very uncomfortable. However, this one is huge, so I imagine it doesn't have anything to prevent a small hand to use it, but it's still very comfortable for larger hands. Moving to this is an In-Strike stock attachment point. However, it's not compatible with all of their stocks. This is a painted Raider stock, and that goes on just fine. This is a painted Retaliator stock, and this doesn't actually fit. It rams into the bit of the shell here, and it just doesn't work. I guess you could sort of cram it on there and mod it this way. That would be kind of odd, but it doesn't work in normal form because of the design here. You can still use other stocks. This is a Lightning Storm stock. This is actually from a water gun, but this is now my favorite Nerf stock. It's very solid and comfortable. It actually sort of goes with the paint as well. But it's kind of a bummer that you can't use all of the stocks. I would never really use a Retaliator stock. I painted this because it looks cool on a gun, but it's too small to actually use, so they might have realized that, but that is worth noting that it's not compatible with every stock. The magazine well is a pretty standard magazine well for a Vortex gun. The magazine has a thick bar on this side and a thin bar on this side, which dictates which way it goes into the blaster. I was expecting this to be incredibly uncomfortable and unbalanced. That was my expectation before I purchased the blaster with this wicked big drum mag. But it's very comfortable and it's definitely wieldable. Now I will show you how to load the drum. So loading this drum is very similar to other Vortex guns. There are a few minor changes. So as you can see, I have not loaded 40 rounds quite yet. I'm on chamber 1 as indicated by this little number here. After you can no longer push more discs in, you actually slide this orange thing over and go to a secondary lower chamber. There are still discs located in this area, so you sort of push those down and then continue loading. So I have filled the second one, so I'm going to go again to chamber 3. So 3 is filled. Now I'm going to go to 4. Same process. So now I have filled all of it, and you don't have to do anything. It's after you hit 4, you just let it go and you load it and you're good to go. Keep in mind, you don't have to change through those chambers while you're operating the blaster. It'll actually fire off all 40 discs without manipulating the drum at all. So you push this in and you have 40 discs. So that is kind of annoying to load, but once you're ready to go, you have 40 shots, which is ridiculous considering you're using discs. Now we have it loaded up and I'll fire it a few times. Basic operation is prime the blaster, put the handle forward, and then pull the trigger. The blaster also has slam fire mode, which means you can hold down the trigger and just pump, and right when the handle hits the forward position, it will release the disc, like this. Vortex discs, unlike darts, will ricochet very well. I have not had an opportunity to range test this blaster, but it is shooting just as hard as the other Vortex blasters. So my personal opinion of the blaster is actually quite high. I wasn't expecting to like this very much because it looks really goofy, and I still hold that opinion of it just looking really weird, especially with the drum. It just looks odd, but I like it very much. It's very comfortable. I like the grips, the handle, the operation is very smooth. I really don't have any major complaints. One complaint is that the stupid sticker they put on the drum mag, the adhesive was stronger than the paper, so when you tried to rip it off, it left that crap all over it. Only complaint, which really isn't a big deal. But my overall opinion is pretty high. I think the price could be a little bit lower, but considering you get the drum in 40 discs, I think the $40 US I paid for it was worth it to me. If you're not into the Vortex guns and you don't have a lot of ammo waiting around for you to use, this would be a difficult blaster to use in a bigger war, but if you're just trying to buy a gun for the walls or whatever, it is a good buy. So hopefully my review covered anything you were wondering regarding the blaster. Again, my personal opinion is pretty high. Hopefully I covered everything so you can make your own decision on whether or not you want to buy this. It's a quick 360. So that's the end of the review. Thanks for watching. Time the blaster to load in 2 more. The lever here is to open up the magazine. It's an internal magazine, and it is an ambidextrous magazine release, meaning you can be left or right-handed and use it